Okay, true crime fans, listen up. I have done videos like this in the past, but not for a couple of years, so let's do a refresher with only the top 10 most absolute jaw-dropping, feature-length documentaries I never got over. Of course, no crime can be compared, and none should, but the way that these films were constructed sends shivers down my spine. Remember, I have a video on miniseries, which I'll also link in the description. This list is in no particular order, but I have saved the movie I believe has affected me the most for last. There's no smooth way to transition into this one. Let's talk about the first movie on the list, Rewind. This is a chilling documentation of one man's reflection on the horrific abuse he experienced as a child. The film has a strong message and purpose which it never strays from, bringing awareness to this dark reality for many families. The title is a play on him rewinding all of his home movies to see the evidence of his abuse clear as day. Sasha, who directed the film and stars in the film, starts off with interviews of people describing him as a bright and curious child. But rapidly, things change as he starts showing shocking signs of distress. The film is hard to watch, presenting some of the hardest conversations that families will ever have with each other in extreme detail. It's an important story not only for the victims who speak out, but for people to learn the process of what happens when this abuse is uncovered, as we follow Sasha recounting all of the people who are involved in uncovering the truth. This film is extremely dark, but you do learn what an impact Sasha had by making his story public. The Bridge is unlike any other documentary on this list because it focuses on a landmark surrounded by grief and darkness. The Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, which is known as a frequent location where people end their own lives. Filmed over the course of a year, the documentary captures several deaths and includes interviews with family and friends of individuals who jumped from the bridge that year. It's a dark story of a place surrounded by heartbreak and the loss of hope. Abducted in Plain Sight recounts the harrowing true story of the Broberg family in Idaho, who become entangled with their sociopathic neighbor who harbors sinister intentions towards their 12-year-old daughter, Jan. The documentary includes interviews with Jan detailing the story. When this film was first released on Netflix, everyone was shocked. People could not stop talking about how infuriating the circumstances and details are. It's a bizarre story of trust and abuse, outlining how close you can really be to the devil himself. 2012 documentary The Central Park Five delves into the notorious Central Park jogger case, a horrendous event where a woman was brutalized and left for dead. The film focuses on the events of 1989, exploring the arrests, interrogations, trials, convictions, and misjustice of the case. Don't believe me? You need to watch this one till the end. I honestly had full body chills. The film reveals how easily the justice system can work against the truth, especially for minorities. It's a horrifically chilling case that outlines the deeper issues with these types of publicized crimes in America. Okay, there are a few North Korean documentaries on this list, and this one might be the most twisted. In fact, it's one of the most wild stories I've ever heard, making Tiger King look like a child's book. This is the true account of two women who ended up assassinating Kim Jong-un's half-brother by accident. You heard what I said, and I mean every single word. You won't believe what you see in this documentary, and it reveals all the footage and all the information in impeccable detail. If you're looking for a well-polished documentary that will leave you speechless, this is the one. The Paradise Lost trilogy definitely gets a spot. It's both rough and raw, and it's unlike the other films on this list because it's not carefully constructed. Paradise Lost is the collection of footage around an event and the frenzy that followed, and they just let it speak for itself. We follow the horrific crime of child murder in West Memphis, Arkansas, and the three non-conformist boys who face the trial for the crime. This is the thing with this series. They hold nothing back, especially in the first film. Graphic details and crime scene photos are shown completely uncensored. The tagline for the series is, "It's frightening to think they did it. It's terrifying to think they didn't." It reveals the horror in the power of judgment and the faults within the justice system. The reason this does not qualify as a miniseries is because the 3 films were released over the decades, following in real time what happened after this crime. The first film was in 1996 and the last one is in 2011. They reveal different pieces of information and reactions from the country and also the people involved. You could argue that the original documentary, which became a household discussion, made true crime content into what it is today. And watching the opinions shift over the decades is haunting. Even though this is not a series, it's really important to watch all of these films to truly understand why this case is so terrifying. The act of killing has to be seen to be believed if you can stomach it. It's a lengthy film that attempts to articulate a violence that is so hard to comprehend that just a glimmer of what we understand is enough to traumatize somebody. The Indonesian documentary tells the story of the people involved in brutal mass killings that took place in Indonesia during the 50s and 60s. During this time, those accused of being communists or opposing the government were tortured and killed. The film focuses on one of the executioners and his friends as they reenact the killings, filming them as improvised movie scenes. They openly discuss how they carried out their actions and their inner thoughts about these brutal crimes. The stark honesty in which it's addressed goes beyond what any of us can imagine. I think everyone should watch this film at least once in their life because it is eye-opening and completely shocking. And the final scene is one of the most gut-wrenching moments ever caught on camera. And if you've seen this, you know I mean literal. Life is never the same. Okay, you knew it was coming. I know a bunch of you just got really uncomfortable when you saw this title. Anyone who's seen this film knows exactly what I'm talking about. The way this film is put together will haunt your dreams and it really does stick with you. Some of the most horrific documentaries comment on larger issues and terrifying truths, but don't let Dear Zachary fool you. Although it's a personal story, it reveals a huge injustice in support given to the vulnerable. Without giving too much away, this one really should be watched with no information. It's the personal account of a filmmaker who decides to memorialize his friend, telling the story of his life and death to his unborn child. I don't want to see you come back here and blame me for traumatizing you. Remember, this is a list of the most disturbing documentaries ever made, and this film's here for a reason. Before we get into my number 1 spot, I do have some honorable mentions. There's Something Wrong with Diane. This is an emotionally charged story about Diane, who caused a deadly car crash. It interviews her family and friends who have conflicting stories into her character and how she was portrayed by the media. Here they attempt to understand why the accident happened that day. Another really hard watch is Abused by My Girlfriend. This is a straight to TV documentary and it's the chilling first account story of a man who was brutalized by his girlfriend in ways that are just unimaginable and why he stayed. It's a warning to us all to look out for the signs to make sure that everyone around us is safe. But my number 1 spot goes to the most disturbing documentary I've ever seen, The Mole, Undercover in North Korea. This movie is one of the most insane things ever to be published. It follows Alridge Larson, who spent a decade infiltrating a social barrier into North Korea, a true life mole who dedicated years to pull off a ruse that would expose the very foundations of this whole country and put him and his family's life on the line, revealing some of the greatest crimes in humanity. I lost sleep over this documentary and I hyperventilated at the end of the first part. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen and has forever changed the way I see the world. There you go. If you have anything more disturbing, drop them down in the comments. As always, I love your recommendations. And if you're looking for something else shocking, well, I just did a review on one of the films that people have told me is the most shocking of the last year. Are the claims true? Check out this video to find out.